All right, Iran is threatening to push the war, quote, beyond the region if President Trump orders new attacks. Yesterday, President Trump told reporters he was just an hour away from ordering new strikes. He said he held off after a request from several Persian Gulf allies. Before boarding Air Force One about 30 minutes ago, President Trump said he was in no rush to make a deal.
We're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry. Ideally, I'd like to see few people killed as opposed to a lot. We can do it either way.
CBS News White House Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now from the North Lawn with more on this. We were listening again to the president make these remarks, Nancy, and he appeared to not really, I don't know, he didn't appear dead set on attacking. He didn't really appear attracted by the current talks. What was your perspective on what we just heard from the president?
Yeah, we've sort of settled into this pattern, Errol, where about once a week the president will say that he thinks that a breakthrough is very close, and then he'll slowly back away from it and say that he's in no rush to cut a deal. So it sort of leaves you wondering exactly what is going on, because you hear so many different things from this White House about where negotiations actually stand. Yesterday, the vice president said that he's feeling pretty good about talks, but then he went on to say that the biggest challenge is that you don't really know who's in charge in Iran. They can't seem to figure out who's driving the bus right now in Iran, and so therefore it makes cutting a deal very difficult. And so what we do know is that the president claims that he was extremely close to restarting hostilities with Iran earlier this week, but then he paused because he was told by the mediators and other participants that they needed to give time for these negotiations to play out, and that he felt very good. We haven't seen that optimism reflected by either Iranian negotiators or the Pakistani mediators, but it just sort of gives you a sense of how fluid the situation is and how fluid the president's commentary on the situation is as well.
So, speaking about Pakistan's role in this, their interior minister visited Tehran for a second time this week as Islamabad continues to try to bring about some kind of peace negotiation. It's hard to say because it feels like we're further and further away from there. But what's the perspective from the White House?
Well, the White House says that these negotiations continue. They say that, they're having trouble understanding who's in charge in Iran. President keeps sort of saying publicly that he has rejected the Iranian proposals out of hand because the Iranians aren't willing to go far enough to get rid of their nuclear program. What the Iranians are saying is that actually they are sending substantive proposals to the U.S. and then the Americans are actually sending revisions and proposals back to them. So, once again, not surprising that you're hearing very different stories from these two sides about what exactly is taking place here.
Do we have any idea, Nancy, of what might be the contents of these proposals?
Well, the challenge is that the two sides have very different goals here. Obviously, the White House really wants to see the Strait of Hormuz reopened, and they want to see major constraints placed on Iran's nuclear program so that they can't resume a nuclear enrichment for, let's say, 20 years. And they want to see the removal of Iran's enriched uranium that is buried underground right now. The Iranians like the fact that they have had control over the Strait of Hormuz. They're willing to see it reopened, but they'd like to maintain some of that control, determine who goes in and out of the strait, perhaps get paid for various commercial vessels from all over the world going in and out of the strait. And so that's an area, a major area where they diverge with the United States, and they want to continue enriching their nuclear material, they say, for civil use, for energy. And so that is something that is being worked out by the two sides.
And Nancy, what we've heard from voters in polling is that they're frustrated, they're stressed about rising costs, gas prices, energy, fuel, food, and the Strait of Hormuz being closed means that will continue. Interest rates may even increase later this year. President Trump said he's not in any rush, though, but there is a resolution, a war powers resolution that was passed by the Senate that may not get signed into law. You've covered Washington and the White House for so long. Does that war powers resolution have any other impact, though, considering this larger climate of challenges and headwinds?
I'm not sure that the president is going to see it as much of a constraint, Errol. He may try to argue if he gets in a situation where he resumes military action against Iran and lawmakers begin to say, well, we passed this War Powers Act. You need to come and get approval from Congress. He may try to argue this is a new military operation, and so the clock restarts. We now have 60 more days before we have to come to you for approval. So, there are a lot of the mechanisms that the White House could try to exploit, even if this bill were to get signed, which, it's hard to see how it would be by the President of the United States. So, that is, yes, it definitely sends a message. Whether the president himself would listen to that message remains to be seen.
Yeah, what is the message worth? Nancy Cordes, across all the big stories of the White House for us today. Nancy, thank you.